Hello. In case you missed my rambling at our meeting, I would like to do that for you now. Um, I really didn't expound around our quiz because we were kind of in the middle of our festivus and it just didn't seem appropriate, but I thought information on blends is pretty important, so I wanted to cover it for you regardless. So if you're interested, keep watching. If you're not, flick me off. Anyway, so what is a blend? The most obvious thing is a blend is a variety of grapes. Normally it's 40 to 50% of one grape blended with one, two, three, or more others. Um, but it can also be one grape but different clones, like a few Cabernet Sauvignon clones blended together, or it can be a few different vineyards blended together. But regardless, winemakers usually produce blends to create a wine that has good balance and good complexity to it that you can't get if you're doing 100% of one varietal. On a side note, I will say though, if a wine is labeled a single varietal, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a single varietal. It depends on the country, but generally it has to have at least 85% of like a Cabernet Sauvignon to be called a Cabernet Sauvignon, but other varietals can be mixed in with it. So it won't necessarily say that on the label though, but if it's a blend, it generally will say what the grapes are. And each grape kind of plays a different role in the wine. So like, for example, Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah, those are really bold grapes, and they usually lend tannin and structure to a blend, whereas Merlot and Grenache, not so much. So they usually kind of round out some of those more powerful grapes and make it a little more smooth. Specifically, you will see Merlot blended with Cabernet Sauvignon a lot, and you'll see Grenache blended with Syrah a lot. And then blends can be all white grapes, they can be all red grapes, and they can be a blend of red and white grapes, like this pepper pot that we tasted. Let's see, which way do we do it? If you remember this one, this actually has Viognier, which is a southern Rhone white grape. So you can kind of get a smattering of different things in a bottle. But I will say most white wines generally are not blended. They tend to be single varietal wines. We found two that we did taste, but it's more rare than the norm. Whereas most red grapes, there's 100% varietals, but they blend almost any and all of the red grapes out there. There are exceptions to the rule, like Pinot Noir. You rarely see that one blended, but and then I just want to kind of give you an example of what to look for across the globe. So hopefully this information will be good for you when you go shopping, so you'll know kind of what you like, what you want to buy, and then go home and enjoy it. So we'll start with France. It's the most popular, and specifically the Bordeaux blend. The Bordeaux blend generally is 5 main grapes, and there can be obscure ones thrown in, but normally it's Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Malbec, and Petit Verdot, and the latter two are kind of just rounding out very small percentages. And if you prefer Cabernet Sauvignon, you're going to prefer more of the left bank Bordeaux, and if you prefer Merlot, you're going to prefer more of the right bank Bordeaux because that's their predominant grape. And by left bank, right bank, it's really not that important. It just means there's a river split down the middle, and they refer to the wines as left bank, right bank. Some of the famous first growths are on the left bank and Cabernet Sauvignon predominant, such as Chateau Margaux, Chateau Lafite Rothschild, Chateau Haut-Brion, etc. And then if we skip over to Rhone in France, that's where you're going to find your Syrah and Grenache blends. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the Syrah is the bolder of the two, so if you kind of prefer the more tannic, spicy, bolder wine, then the Southern Rhone for you will be the one that has more Syrah in it. If you prefer quite not so bold, then you're going to prefer the Southern Rhone blend that has more Grenache in it because it'll kind of tame the boldness of the Syrah. But they tend to use, besides those two grapes, they use many other grapes. If you've heard of Chateauneuf du Pape, that's from Southern Rhone, that can actually have up to 13 varietals in it, which is a lot to push into a bottle, but it's a good wine, so can't beat it. And then if we move over to Italy, Misha was actually asking about Chianti. Chianti is a blend. of about 80–85% Sangiovese, and then it's rounded out with Caianolo, Trebbiano Malvasia, so you have some white wine grapes in there also. Recently, they started introducing the international varieties, like Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot into the Chianti blends, and it's allowed and acceptable now. In the older days, it wasn't accepted, and that's how Super Tuscan started, because you had some of these forward-thinking Chianti producers that wanted to introduce those international varieties, and the DOC was like, no. So they said, okay, fine, we'll keep it as a table wine. We'll call it Super Tuscan. And as many of you know, Super Tuscans are fabulous wines. So, and then we move on to Spain and Rioja. Do you remember drinking this one? Sorry, I have a hard time turning. It's like a mirror, you know, turning the bottle to be right. But anyways, Rioja, this is actually 100% Tempranillo. What makes it a blend is the subregions which the grapes come from. So you have Rioja, and then you have like 3 distinct subregions in there. You have Rioja Alta, Rioja Alavesa, and Rioja Baja. And they all, the soils are all quite different in those areas and kind of lend different characteristics to the grapes, thus different characteristics to the wine. And last but not least, we'll jump over to the U.S. Just to give you an idea, if you're shopping for U.S. wines, you want to keep it California specifically. If you see Meritage on a bottle of wine from California, that is going to be a Bordeaux blend. They use the Bordeaux grapes, and the percentages are Bordeaux percentages. They just can't call it a Bordeaux, so they've come up with Meritage to name it. And then in keeping with that, if you really like Bordeaux, then Napa Valley is going to be the place for you. They specialize in Bordeaux blends. They really specialize in Cabernet Sauvignon. So, and of course, Left Bank Bordeaux that are predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon. San Luis Obispo also does some Bordeaux blends. And then if you kind of prefer more of the Southern Rhone, the Grenache Syrah type blends, Sonoma, San Luis Obispo again, and Santa Barbara all do really, really nice Southern Rhone blends. So hopefully this gives you an idea of things that you like in a wine, different varietals you like. So when you go to the store, you can automatically head towards the wines of France, or specifically Southern Rhone, or you know that you want the Chianti or the Super Tuscan blends, and it'll help you, because that's really what we want to do. We want to make, you know, me and Joe and the American Wine Society kind of want to make shopping for wine, drinking wine, not intimidating. We want it to be fun. We want it to be enjoyable, and we hope you learn something. So it'll make going to the wine store a little nicer experience for you. So that's about it. We hope to see you at the next meeting. Bye.